Recording in progress.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. And my guest today is Andre Paradis, and he's the creator behind Project Equinox. So let's find out more about Project Equinox and let's meet Andre. Hi, Andre.
Good morning.
How are
How are
you?
you? Very good, very good. I'm in Los Angeles. It's sunny, it's beautiful. I mean, every morning is.
Where are you
Well,
normally?
I'm in Los Angeles. I'm in Woodland Hills, exactly.
But where are you normally? Do you live here full time?
I do now. Yeah, I've been here for 30 plus years. I'm originally French Canadian,
Good.
so
Yes. So you were born and raised in Quebec.
yes,
Yes.
Quebec City, Quebec. Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, cold. That's all I remember. Like it's interesting because I always felt like I was born in the wrong family, and part of that was born in the wrong place. I don't know how to explain that. I was 5 years old when I realized this was all wrong. This was all wrong,
Wrong
and
in what way?
I didn't fit in my family. I was a black sheep. I didn't belong with them. They didn't get me. I didn't get them. I was isolated. I was just didn't fit in, and part of my soul somehow required sun and sunlight on my face. And you don't get that in Montreal, Canada, or Quebec City. It's 7 years, 7 months of cold and winter. I used to walk in the snow to get to school, walk back for lunch, go back after lunch, go back, minus 20, minus 25. It was ridiculous. And I was 9 years old when I discovered there were, there was places in the world. My mom says, "Oh, there's places in the world, honey, there's no winters." And I'm thinking, like, what the hell are we doing here? If you know this, we live in this crap, and in this place in the world there's no. And then I discovered Florida. I was 9 years old, and then for some reason California was the hook. I don't know why exactly. Maybe just the word California was calling my soul. And at 9 years old, I knew I was going to live here, and it took me 15 years to get here from then.
Any siblings?
Oh yeah, I'm number 4 out of 5 kids,
In the far five, okay.
which is even stranger, right? How do you not fit
Right,
in a
right,
family
right,
of
right,
7 people in the house, and
right.
I'm literally alone?
Very
Like I
interesting.
feel like the dog who nobody takes care of, take
Usually
advantage.
it's
Like,
the youngest one that feels that way,
I know,
not
but
the middle. Sometimes,
it's
yeah.
it's good. My little brother, exact opposite. It's funny. My little brother, 3 years younger than me, and I feel literally out of place. Like I don't belong here. And my mother, actually, ultimately, I know part of the reason was she didn't want he didn't want me. I was an accident, and she resented that, and she resented that throughout her
Is
pregnancy.
that factual? Or you were thinking you thought that?
Factual, factual. At the
It's
time, I
factual,
didn't understand it. I had
right?
conversation with her when I was older. Like, what the
Right,
hell happened? Like,
right,
how's this possible?
right,
So she didn't want to be pregnant. She was one of those people who was sick the whole pregnancy, 9 months
right,
of puking.
right.
They're Catholic, good Catholic family, so everything was calculated. Every 3 years, we were supposed to have a kid. So, not sure if they had a party one night, drank too much. Anyway, I came in sideways. She hated being pregnant with me. She hated me in that. And then when I was born, just started acting like the way I see it, acted like I didn't belong there, and that became like at the core of me, knowing I didn't belong here. Like so, I that's how I felt. My little
Right.
brother next to me, 3 years younger, she's all over him.
Hmm.
So as much as I feel like she didn't ever accept me or wanted me, rejected me completely, that's how I feel. He feels overwhelmed by her love and like just completely smothered the hell out of him. Side by side, two different lives.
Wow.
Interesting, yeah, interesting.
And then you moved to the U.S. in 1989.
Yeah, well, what I did is I moved to Vancouver. So when I was 19, I went west as far as I could, getting away from all that. Then I was trying to get away from the snow as well. That was also wrong for me. So the only place I could land or live legally, and that didn't have snow, whereas Vancouver, BC, there's no winters because the coast is warm. Except I didn't know that it's Seattle weather and it rains.
So Seattle was your first stop.
No, it was Vancouver, which is next to Seattle. It's 2 hours
Right.
away. They have the same
Yeah.
weather. They have the same weather patterns. What I'm saying, I didn't know this.
Right.
Everybody knows Seattle rains for 7 months out of the year. This is where the grunge movement started because by February, after months of gray and rain, people jump off of buildings. They kill themselves. It's so depressing. Right? And so I moved to the West Coast thinking I'm getting away from the snow, but now I'm actually in dingy, dark, wet, musty Vancouver, and it rains no sun for months at a time.
Right.
Like, so on some level, it was even worse. But my eye was always Los Angeles. My eye was always, the West, the sun. But also, when I was living, I was training to be a commercial jazz dancer at the time, and if you're going to be doing that for a living, you have to be in Los Angeles. That's where the money is.
Right.
So that's what the whole thinking was. So Vancouver was a step towards, like a step one into getting to Los Angeles. And my Los Angeles story is a Hollywood story. It's ridiculously quirky. It should be part of a book. My life is a book.
Is that when you danced professionally from 1984 to 2000?
So that was like in Vancouver. What happened is, as I was trying to make my way to Los Angeles, I realized that the training that I was getting in Vancouver was better than any kind of training I could get anywhere else in the world. Very classical training, with very strong ballet and technical jazz training. It's essential, like anything else. If you're gonna make a career out of something, you want to be trained to the core.
Right.
Los Angeles is all about style and flash,
Mhm.
right? The training is just for that, for movie and television. The training I was getting up north was incredibly classical, and structural, and I knew I needed that in order to have a long career, as opposed to a flash in the pan kind of career. You know what I
Right.
mean? For the body on the stuff, because what happened is I never paid for any of my training, which is insane. Somehow, by the grace of God, I was born with all the assets: my skeleton, my feet, my hips, my weight, my shoulders. I kept getting pulled into dance companies and ballet companies and jazz companies. I never paid for my training because they kept seeing me as oh my God, this is what he's built for. For years, I never paid for training. I was
So
always
did you
on.
dance for companies or for what did you dance for?
I was dancing at the time. We did all kinds of stuff, but I was like I said, I'd get scholarships after scholarships with different studios, different companies, and the Go Ballet Company, GOH, which is a Korean company in Vancouver, who imports dancers from Korea, and just it's incredible. The studio is a castle, right? Very prestigious. They swept me up. I went there to check out the class one day, like, you come here, and then train me for free. Like, there was, it was incredibly interesting, that it was something everybody else could see, and I just sort of kept going with it, thinking, really not thinking anything in the beginning. Ultimately, until a couple of years into it, I'm like, this looks like this is what I'm going to be doing. Like, this is just happening.
Mhm.
So, we started. There was local jobs. Obviously, I was part of. Me and my friends create outside of everything else I was doing, a dance company. Then we performed locally in the city. We performed a little broader. We went sort of travel, a few hours away to perform, because there was nothing like us. But a part of the training is interesting. Even in Vancouver, there's a lot of summer programs, summer school programs, summer extensive program, and people would travel from Los Angeles to come and teach for us, and come to LA for a week or two and do a summer program of LA style. So there's a big business of teaching, and so one of the teachers that used to come up on a regular basis asked me on one summer to come down to Los Angeles for a couple of weeks to he was doing his demo reel for his choreography, like actors do. And he says, are you you wanted me to be dance captain to do the reel for him for a couple of weeks. Not anybody in Los Angeles. He wanted me. So, okay, he says, come down with your girlfriend, spend a couple of weeks. It's vacation in LA, help me out. Do you know what I mean? Have fun, be tourists, whatever. So down we came, me and my girl. And we got into town on a Thursday night. This is a ridiculous story. This is so Hollywood, but we got into town Thursday night. Saturday at the studio where we train, practice, rehearse for his reel. There was a party for dancers, local dancers, like in Los Angeles. So all the people I want to be part of, the business I want to step into, but I don't live here. So I get to this party, and it's just hundreds of people, all kids my age. At the time, I'm 23, 4. I'm just literally just having fun with my girl. We're in Los Angeles, just like having fun in LA at a party. I just got in town, gonna spend a couple of weeks. This older guy in the corner staring at me, and every time I turn around, he's staring at me. And I'm thinking, oh, it took me a minute. I'm like, oh, we're in LA. Okay, got it. So
What does that mean?
I thought he was trying to pick me up. He was like staring at me, constantly staring at me, like looking me up and down. And so like I said, I'm a little bit naive maybe at the time. And by the time, but at one point, I'm like, oh shit, okay, we're in LA. All right, so great. So I kept, sort of ignoring him. And at one point, my friend who asked me to come down to help him, I see them over there both talking to each other, but looking at me. So now I could tell they're talking about me. Right. So I'm more irritated. And at one point, my buddy waves me over. I'm like, what's he freaking doing? Introducing me to some old guy. like, because he knows I'm straight. He was gay, doesn't matter. So I kind of saunter over there with the attitude. I was still too polite. I'm not anymore, but I was too polite to go, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Anyway, so kind of over there, and he goes, Andre, this is Steve. Steve, this is Andre. And I kind of literally turned my head and shook his head. Like, I don't know why I'm here. And my buddy grabs me by the elbow and throws me the back door. We're in the back of the studio. There's back door to the parking lot right next to me. He grabs me by the elbow, throws me outside. He goes, hold on, Steve. He goes outside. He goes, listen, mother. He goes, this is Steve Merritt. He's got a big show that he's looking for a dancer that he can't replace. How about you say to Steve, you idiot? He wants to hire you. I'm like, oh, go back inside. Hey, Steve, nice to meet you.
So what's the lesson here?
So the lesson was really kind of, don't assume anything. But what happened is, and then he says to me, yeah, he says, I've been in this, I do this in a like national show. We tour all over the nation. 4 months ago, I lost one of my guys. I can't replace him. I've held audition in town. I can't replace him. You're exactly what I want. Are you interested? I'm like, at a party.
So I'm more curious to why were you so resistant and so annoyed that you wanted to meet you in the first place?
Well, just I thought he was trying to pick me up.
But you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Right.
I know, but when somebody's staring you up and down, when a man looks at you like a woman, I know that look. That's what he was looking. That's what it looked like. Like a guy looks at me like a chick. I know what's going on.
Well, clearly you were wrong.
That was wrong. He was actually, he was fascinated with, like he said, 4 months, couldn't find anybody. And all of a sudden I'm standing there and he's like, oh shit. Now, how can I even guess that? You know what I mean? Like, anyway, so then he says to me like, oh shit, Dana, which is my friend, says, you're amazing. He says, you look the part. He goes, are you interested? We start rehearsals on Monday. This is Saturday night. We start rehearsal on Monday for 3 weeks and then we're on the road. I'm like, okay, well, whew. He goes, so you're interested? I go, what's the show? Some national show, right? So he goes, Chippendales. Strippers.
The national or the local?
National. National tours. There was a club in LA. There's a club in New York, and there was two touring companies. I didn't know that. Yep. So he's doing all the shows, the clubs and the two touring companies. He's the guy who choreographed all this, put it together. And so, and it's funny because, well, actually at the time I was a little like, like if you come up to a girl dancer, like in my world, right, the girls who train, to be commercial dancers are not strippers. You know what I mean? Like, so if you ask a girl, like, so we do for a living, I'm a dancer, you go, so what do you strip at? They'll punch your lights out, right? Because it's not at all who they are. So I had the same reaction. Stripper, I'm not kind of freaking stripper. I'm a commercial trained, contemporary, dancer. Like I'm not a stripper. I was offended really because dancers can be uppity. It's like actors, like, you know what I mean? So, but he says to me, he goes, well, I get it. He goes, except you're going to be dancing along with the strippers. You're not a stripper. You're going to be dancing in the show. And he says, so how much money are you making right now being a commercial professional trained? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, got me.
There you go.
So, Monday morning I'm in rehearsal, and 3 weeks later we're on the road for 3 months at a time. And it was an incredible, fun gig. It was my first professional job. It allowed me to save money and literally moved to Los Angeles after I did it for almost a year and a half. Came back with cash in my pocket and a sense of like I belong here, and I got settled. I got an agent,
There you go.
and then my career started flying, and I danced with Michael Jackson, I danced with Prince, I danced with Paula Abdul, I traveled the world for 15 years performing and
And you
teaching.
almost killed all that away.
Well, yeah, but my whole life is a version of this, like just like an
No,
opportunity,
I mean
random
it's a life
opportunity.
to listen to everybody. Listen, it's just we all need to learn that. You just never know, and it's not whether somebody's looking at me that way or somebody's looking at me that way. You just never know what's behind the door number
Straight
one
up,
or door number
straight
two.
up,
Yeah,
straight up,
yeah.
straight up.
So
Yeah.
when did you start Project Equinox?
Well, Equinox. So I've had like three phases in my life. So that was what I call phase one, dancing, performing. It actually saved my life. Um, because it brought so much joy, that it pulled me out of depression and really being suicidal. I didn't really think I was going to live long from my original settings and the hole in my heart is what I called it. But dancing actually brought me joy, and sort of I realize now, because I do this work now, that when you every emotions we have create a chemical reaction in our bodies, right? When you laugh, you release endorphins. When you cry, you release, there's every emotion has a chemical reaction. And what's happened is I literally worked myself out of depression by dancing, because it made me happy, it made me smile, it made me joyful, it filled my heart, it connected to my body, right? I was disconnected from my body completely. So all of that over the years, I ended up going from a guy who wasn't going to make anything of himself and really didn't feel like he belonged here. And what's the point? To, I think this could work.
Right.
I think he'd be happy. I think so. As I got healthier, I met my wife. My wife's a prima ballerina. In the mid '90s, she was one of my students. Oops. And when we decided to start a family, I I was not going to be the absent dad. So I told my agent, I'm not traveling out of town anymore. If you give me some work in Los Angeles, I'm not going to China. I'm not going to Japan. I'm going nowhere. I'm going nowhere. I'm going to be in town with my kids. I'm going to be at, every recital, every meet, every parade, whatever. But, I'm like, and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I just told you, this is what I'm doing. In order for me to make money and stay in town in between, because it was going to cut the flow of my income a lot. I'm a car guy. My brothers, what I got from my brothers and my dad is really the love of classic cars and cars. In Los Angeles, they still exist. And so I opened a car shop, a collision repair shop that allowed me to stay grounded and allow me to stay close to home. So instead of traveling the world came to me. It was fantastically different for me. My business was 6 minutes from my house, and the school was 2 blocks from our house. So it was a perfect setup for me to do life the way I want to do and be there for my kids, like I didn't experience in life. You know what I mean? I was wanting to provide them something that I didn't have. So, but part of the rest of my brain, my natural curiosity is, out of understanding my circumstances as a kid, I became very curious with the human condition and constantly seek out information. So
And what year was that?
Was that?
What
Well,
year was that?
I started doing personal development at 23. So that was like
23.
in the
Oh,
80s, you know what I
80s.
mean?
So when
So
did Project Equinox start?
so I'm getting to it. So that was sort of like I became a workshop head. I think
Right.
workshop, personal development, business workshop. I always in workshops. My friend thought it was weird, especially back then. Now it's more popular. Um, and in 2006, at the time I have the car business. I'm still doing workshops to up my understanding of business and make more money and raise the ceiling. So I'm in San Jose, California, in a business workshop for 3 days about trying to raise the ceiling on my business. I meet this couple who's sitting next to me on the flight back to LA. This is 2006. And the girl says to me, what are you doing next weekend? And I go, ooh, I'm off next weekend. Why? She goes, do you want to come to a workshop? It's on me. I'm like, of course. You're gonna offer me a free workshop. I'm a workshop head. You know what I mean? Of course. And then I go, wait. So what's the workshop? She goes, oh, it's called Understanding Women. Now, nothing I was looking for. My wife and I by then are married for a few years. We have young kids. Everything's doing fine. We're grooving. but I just said I was going to go. So I ended up going that weekend, drive to a workshop near the airport. And I remember thinking, what the hell are you going to teach me about girls? Because, not without arrogance, I'm maybe, maybe my artistic ways, I thought, made me kind of a hybrid. So I always attracted very sweet women like my wife. I never did the crazy stuff like my friends did, the yelling, the screaming, like, I, so I just thought I knew something. Now, looking back, if you'd asked me what I know or what I knew, I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, so I went to the workshop thinking, what are they going to teach me, right? Like, I got this. I don't do drama with women. Um, but when I got there, there was 400 people in this space in the room, and I instantly got oh shit, this is not cute, right? Something's going on here. There's something serious here. And so sat down, and at the end of the workshop, my brain was all over the walls. My brain literally completely exploded because I realized I knew nothing about women. But more dangerously, I knew nothing about my wife, and realized some of the things, the way they operate, why they think things personally, how they think, how they speak. We don't communicate the same way. We don't listen the same way. Like 8 layers of insanity. This was just scratching the surface, and I found that really dangerous to not know. And again, my inquisitive mind, my curious mind wants to know everything. All my siblings are married and divorced 2, 3 times. I have my angel, my baby. I'm not going to mess that up because I didn't know. So I'm thinking about my brain. So of course I jumped in the company, took all their classes, all their workshops. With no time, I became a workshop leader for them because I'm a teacher. So that was no brainer, right? It's easy to just put me in front of a crowd. I'll teach it. And ultimately, that was how this started. So that was 2006. Within 2.5 years or so, that didn't work out with this company, but I kept training because now the floodgates were open. The stuff I was discovering that I didn't know just made me crazy.
Right.
So I ended up training with Dr. John Gray, Mars and Venus, Shanti Felhan in the South, Love and Respect. Esther Perel, who's now famous, was not known at the time. Dr. Pat Allen, Los Angeles. So I still study with 5 masters that are a different angle of the relationship dynamics: anthropology, chemistry, human behavior, psychology. You know what I mean? So this, therapy, psychology. So these 5 masters, like the cocktail of information that I have is delightful. So Project Equinox started literally early 2009, where as I'm collecting all this information just for me and my wife, just so we'd be fine, it started emanating off of me, and people were asking me questions. My friends started, my customers at the business would literally start crying in front of me. Sometimes I'd close my door in the office, and the guys knew, don't open the door, somebody's crying, right? Like women and men would just spill their guts on me. So apparently I have that vibe, and that's how it kind of all started. Eventually, I started Project Equinox, and as we build it, it got more and bigger and bigger and bigger. The
So
car business.
if you define the project Equinox, what would you define it as in a one sentence?
One more time.
If you define the project Equinox in one sentence, what would you call
I help men and women attain and sustain long-term, loving, healthy love relationships. That's what I do.
it? Is that something that you were trained for or certified for? So not a.
Oh, I have with my training. I have like I think 14 different certifications.
Okay.
I'm trained out of yin yang in hypnotherapy and NLP work,
Right.
communication, certifications. I mean, I have like 14, maybe 16. Last time I lost count. So again, part of my training, is constantly training, but that was all part of my natural curiosity about things. It just all came together.
Right. And the goal, do you work with each one individually, or do you work as a couple together, or is it a
all,
couple?
all, all of it. For some ladies, what's happening in the world now, about 10 years ago, it's interesting. Things kind of shifted. The problem between men and women, from my perspective, was always the not understanding each other. Man and man, women and women were different. We operate different, right? We trip each other up because she takes things personally, and they think she talks too much, or she doesn't understand. Like, she's always mad at him, doesn't know why. So it was always that man-women dance. And about 10 years ago, it changed radically, really quickly, whereas the The problem is because he needs to be like a girl, and she needs to man up, right? Like, so we now encourage women to be strong, independent, powerful, which is good, but it creates problems in dynamics with men because they don't change gear. Strong, independent, powerful brings strong, independent, powerful to the relationship. Natural male don't want that shit, right? But on the other side, we train men to be sweet, sensitive, and vulnerable. That's fine. We need a level of that, but when that becomes overcalibrated, men don't know who the hell they are. They're ashamed of being masculine, and women's, so now we kind of flip the script, and then now we really can't get it together because we'll go against nature, even. Do you know what I mean?
And do you obviously you meet them in person or online or?
So everything's online now since COVID.
Right.
I always did live workshops, with couples and singles and whatever, just teaching the material, just kind of helping them reframe.
And what do you charge for that, may I ask?
Oh, all different kinds of prices. Big packages are thousands of dollars, but it's big, medium, small, smaller. Like
give me an example of the package. What's small? What's like small gets me what?
The smallest one is, because a small group for people who can't really afford. Not everybody's got money to spend on stuff like this. My programs are all 4 months long, but the small group is a year's commitment. We meet only twice a month on Zoom because ladies are all over the place. It costs $197 a month. Cheap. That's the way to get in the community, and
that's for 2 sessions a month.
Yeah, that's just 2 live sessions a month. But like I said, it's the part of they have a private face group where I teach something live, and they have the whole month. We churn on the material, they research them on their own, they come back with the questions, and at the end of the month, they actually have what they call Girl Talk with my wife live to kind of like talk about everything you learn about that topic.
She's involved in this as well.
Yeah. Oh, my wife is actively involved with my business. Yes. Okay. So it's kind of cool. So that's a small, the big program goes all the way up to like, $8,500.
What does that give me?
It's one-on-one with a client for 4 months. And so once a week, plus in between meetings and conversation on WhatsApp. So it's me holding their hands for 4 months. It's a lot out of work, but in 4 months on the other side.
I know, but have you seen the result after 4 months now? Because you started this in 2009, so it's pretty new.
Yeah,
sorry, 2019, right?
I was that?
When did you start this?
2009 was
2009?
Part of Equinox, but like I said, it built up. Originally it was for my friends and local people, and then just the pull.
Right.
So now
what did you have a result? What would you say? People after the 4 months would say
different life. So I have before COVID, you don't know this, but I officiate weddings as well. So before COVID, I married 4 of my couples. Right. I have 2
out of the program.
Yeah, I have 2 since COVID. 2 months ago who are engaged to be married. One couple. I'm flying to Texas next summer to marry them myself. As part of my program. It says it's part of my program. If you do the program and you end up getting married, I'll fly anywhere you are to marry you myself. So I'm going to Texas. Another couple just got married last week in Delaware that I couldn't get to and fly to. It was too complicated. It was too busy. It was too last minute.
And where did they meet? Did they came to you separately from different worlds?
Yeah, typically all of these ladies all these ladies.
Well, men.
But the ones that I married came at me on their own first, helped me understand men, helped me.
And they found their husband where? Outside of
this? They found their husband right typically in mid's program, because I opened the channel to the femininity, and when they get feminine, they attract men.
But they found their partner outside of the program, not within the program.
Okay, and typically, again, like I said, they go practice stuff daily.
Right.
Opens the channel, men get attracted, and then we sort through the men, and the ones who want what they want, they just have I teach them how to find compatibility. You want to find a man who is looking for what you're looking for. That's all.
We call that teach you how to fish.
Exactly. So you take the fish, no good, you throw it away, right? So you have to attract men first, because they have to pick you first, and then you choose if they're really line up with your life and they have the same. So the compatibility is a huge factor. You have to have chemistry. You have to be compatible long term, like looking for the same things.
Right.
But the moment you're opening the channel as a woman and feminine and radiant and warm and inviting, men show up like crazy.
Right.
Now
so where do people find you?
What's that?
Where do people find you? Can they find you?
I do a lot of podcasting, so people find me this way. And if so, I have a gift for you listeners if you want.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. So if anybody is curious about what I do, I offer people that are courageous and courageous because it's apparently nerve-wracking. If you go to www.andregroupcoaching.com, it's a landing page that my team and I created that takes you to my calendar. And if you're curious about what I do, I'm offering you a free call to anybody, men or women, who want to know more about what I do.
Very
It's
good.
a 1 hour call. It's worth hundreds of dollars, but I just as a courtesy.
Right.
And what we do in that call is basically figure out, where you're stuck. People don't call me because they're happy. They call me
Right.
because they're stuck, men or
Right.
women. What's the problem? What's the problem? How do we get to here? And what's the dream?
Okay.
So that 1 hour call, and then obviously this offer different packages. So if you want to join me, this, or this, depending on your, level of investment. But the call itself was liberate people from understanding what happened, how masculine women who are stuck in their masculine come from some childhood trauma. No daddy, bad daddy, abuse, neglect, on some level, men as well. So
Right.
men who are stuck in their feminine have experienced trauma. So in that call, literally, I'm so good at this. In about 15 minutes, we go right back to childhood, find out where the wheels come off, which means this happens to you. So this is why you're experiencing this. This is why you're stuck in that loop.
Right.
So whether we work together or not, that call is like liberates people from there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a product of your past. Now you have to really get your work done and get past this so you can actually have the life that you want.
So it's
Group
www.andregroupcoaching.com.
AndreGroupCoaching.com.
You heard everybody. So thank you so much for doing this. This is a lot
Absolutely.
of information. Such a good story. So for those that are listening, if you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe for future episodes. And again, if you want to reach Andre, you know what to do. And until next time, be well and be safe and take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all.